Welcome to City Cinematheque, where the art and pleasure of the movies are the subject of serious discussion. I'm your host, Jerry Carlson, and I teach film studies at the City College of the City University of New York. Today it's our pleasure to present the 2003 Argentine film El Cumple, The Birthday Party. Now, this is the kind of film that takes a group of characters who are put together in one place and explores their relations as friends, their contemplation about their lives, and does, in this case, does so with considerable cinematic brio. We'll be talking about that and a set of other things after today's film with our guest, Professor Flora Schiminovich from Barnard College, an expert on Argentine culture, literature, and film. Now, take a visit to El Cumple. Welcome back from El Cumple. This is a very interesting film that tells us a lot about a particular generation, about a whole broad range of characters, and of course about a particular place, Rosario, Argentina. To explore all those things, it's a pleasure to have back on CUNY TV our good friend Flora Schiminovich. Flora is a professor of Spanish and Latin American cultures at Barnard College. Her research covers literature, theater, and film. She herself hails from Argentina and has done research on the national literature and traditions of that particular country. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being with you
here.
So, it's one of my loves is film, you know.
I know. So you are, if you don't mind me starting this way, you are a porteña. That is, you're someone from the city of Buenos Aires. One of the things that's conspicuous about this film is that it doesn't take place in Buenos Aires.
Rosario.
It takes, exactly. So tell us a little bit about what that means in the film, that we're not in this capital, the capital city. We're off in a large, by any global standard, a large, modern, but provincial city. What place does the city have in Argentine national culture?
It was at one point a very commercial, industrial city. It has lost some of the, you know, the industrial factories that they used to have because of the economic situation, but it was a very important. I had relatives that had factories there, and that's how the city thrived. And they had, you know, an intellectual community, of course, and some of my best friends in United States here are from Rosario, and Cali, one of my best friends, she's a very intellectual, and I agree with her in everything about movies or books. So they did have a culture. It was a poor city. It has been developed, and not as much as Mar del Plata, you know, in many ways. Mar del Plata is one of the resources, places where people used to go on vacation in the sea. This has the Barnard River, you know, and we see the river.
Absolutely, we have some striking river views in this rather pleasant place where the party is taking place.
But I'm sure, you know, Rosario is not, you know, a big city, and compared to Buenos Aires, of course. But there are other cities in Argentina that have prospered, relatively prospered. And I would say, you know, Rosario didn't do so badly until, you know, the economic depression of the year 2000.
Okay, so this is a film that conspicuously takes place as a reunion of friends after that crisis has taken place.
Crisis that affected everybody, you know, in Buenos Aires. I mean, the whole, you know, country was affected by that. But yes, you know, if there were some hopes,
right.
The hopes, you know, were completely destroyed after what happened. You know, people face, you know, that reality that they had no money, they couldn't go to the banks. Eliseo Subiela was so angry, you know, he says, I lost all my money. I mean, everybody had lost the money. They would go to the bank and they wouldn't, you know, get anything.
Very much like, to put it in an American perspective, this is, while, you know, we've had our crises, this is close in the American experience to 1929, when people lost things were uninsured, things went under. This is not, for example, like the savings and loan scandal in the United States, which was terrible. No, this is genuinely where one day you have lost everything that you've put away. Or
compared to New Orleans, what has happened recently in New Orleans, where people lose everything. They have all the savings, their life savings, their jobs, everything is lost. You go to the bank, the banks are closed. So it has been a tremendous impact in the population of Argentina. There are dreamers. In general, you would say that Argentinians, they dream with salvation. And you remember the last phrase in The Shipwreck?
The great novel by Onetti.
And also the film, by Eliseo Subiela.
Oh, the last images of the shipwreck.
The last images, remember that? He says, the problem was to believe in salvation. This great salvation does not exist. Right. And that is something. The illusions, have been broken in Argentina after the dirty war, and then coming out of this incredible past, then you want to look for something much better. And so if you are in Rosario, there's a lot of talent. I see a lot of writers in Rosario. Right. I see a lot of people, they have hopes. The factories are closed. The schools don't have the best teachers. The health system is, not very good, but they're trying.
Right. Well, now let's talk about how this film, what the kind of aesthetic behind this film, and how it represents this place and this experience. This is a film that is in many ways a minimalist film. Obviously it's made itself on a low budget.
Let me interrupt you, but like many films after the big, collapse of the year 2000, many films had no money. The budget, to make a film. So, how do you make a film? I find it, very talented. This is not Nine Queens or El Hijo de la Novia, where you have a co-productions. These are not co-productions, The only way they can do films like that.
Well, and this is all part of two things I can say, very specifically about a whole emerging generation of young Argentine filmmakers who know this is the way they're going to have to make film and choose.
This is the budget.
This is the budget. But also, it is also a conscious decision to not go another way that you've already mentioned, which is the co-production, co-production route, so that you get this kind of, perhaps by American standards, modest, but by international standards, a full budget, so you can shoot a story of a certain, proportion with certain kinds of effects, and certainly shooting with what at the moment remains the international standard of 35 millimeter, and this historical, psychological, and economic moment sort of forces these filmmakers to turn inward to look at who they are and what the society is, but to do so on an intimist scale.
Absolutely. But I admire them because they are very talented, and the techniques. When you see in this film, with the reduction in the budget, it's such a minimalist film, and you have a world.
Well, that's a very good point.
You have a whole world that you can go into the intimate stories of each one. There's another film called Intimate Stories. Recently also very low budget and beautiful film. It's very smart to gather all these people for a cumpleaños, a birthday party. And then you can see several aspects of the Argentine society, not only Rosario. You see what happens to marriage. You see what happens to the people. What are they doing? What happened to their illusions? Why is it that they are dreaming, about something that never happened? All of them you can see in the film. Right. That they gather here, and it's like you say, it's a sort of collective psychoanalysis.
Well, that's a very nice phrase. It's also interesting that the way when you can say about this film, as you can say about any film, we see. But in this film, we see and we don't see.
Yes.
Because this is a film that is, while it's very filmic, it actually also partakes of what I would call a set of wonderful modern theatrical conventions that we associate with people like the theater of Harold Pinter and dialogue that's of indirection and people who are avoiding talking about things, or of people
It
who
reminds me a little bit of Chekhov. You know, Martel.
Well, exactly.
Martel has been, she's compared to the Chekhov, in Argentina. But I think
Lucille Martel, who made La Ciénaga de Soie and The Holy Girl.
And The Holy Girl, and she became, but her films are not, I think, so Chekhov as this one. I think this one is very Chekhovian in the character,
Okay, because just to sort of to run down a few of the markers on that list, again, many of the Chekhov plays are themselves actually set with people out in the provinces who've been dreaming of a future that has never arrived. We get to see the worlds of both illusion and delusion that individual characters live in many of the Chekhov plays. And we also have these privileged moments in the Chekhov plays in which a character we haven't paid so much attention to all of a sudden comes to the surface of the ensemble and has a moment of revelation that doesn't drive the story forward, but that is a revelation about what his or her condition is, or his or her dream is.
There's always hope. Yeah. There's always hope in Chekhov, even though it's such a terrible picture.
May I quote the Three Sisters? Moscow, 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 always with the dream.
I want to go to Moscow.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Here, people say, I want to go. There is one character in the film, Gabriela, the wife, she says, she never took me to Valeria, to a place. I mean, he took me to so many places because he's a journalist. The main character, the one who's having the birthday party, is a journalist for sports, sports journalist. And she's talking, with the video. I mean, Paula is videotaping her, and she's saying, he took me to so many places, but he never took me to Valeria del Sur or something, one of the places. And so then that's the place she wanted to go. You see, and all the characters have this Chekhovian dream that they're going to achieve something, they're going to they're going to go someplace. And they are, I would say, so involved in their lives, in the frustrations, that the society reflects, And so they are broken dreams, like Broken Flowers, a film that I tell you that I saw this summer that I liked it.
Well, but to reference the recent Jim Jarmusch film, Broken Flowers, and this film really makes a great deal of sense, because these are works that, first of all, are linked by a kind of minimalist aesthetic in which we're given just enough information that we're led to infer much more about the lives of the...
and we don't know much about their lives, not even, in Broken Flowers. I mean, he goes, he tries to discover or recuperate the past, but he doesn't, because people...
Well, because it's
people change.
Well...
We see the change in the film. This film, El Cumple, is magnificent because we see the change of these people. They've been together, they were husband and wife and a child, and then you see that things haven't really worked for anybody, But Marcelo, at the end, he represents the hope. He goes away with another woman. I mean, he's going to have a relationship with somebody else.
We also have a number of characters who have been away and who
Darío.
And we think that by going away, that's going to solve everything, or that progressively larger worlds are going to open up to them.
Yes.
But in fact, one of the ironies of the film is that there is this return back to Rosario and a kind of entrapment.
People don't leave. I mean, you never leave. It's like in Chekhov. It's very hard to leave.
That's right.
And he left, and then he tells the story. This Darío tells the story why he left, because of his relationship with this woman that he had met in the street. But it's funny because Darío says, why do you leave and why do you come back? These are the questions, why do you leave and why do you come back? And the answers are incredible. He says, you come back because you have to come back.
Yes, and it's that irrational attraction to this implantation. This implantation. Well, but we also have that with a character of the older generation who is connected, who his monologue is about. I remember when people thought I was a thinker, and
And what does he do now?
But at that, when he was a thinker, and it references very specific kind of moments or movements. Oh, when I went to that conference in Cuba, which evokes a whole world of Latin American intellectuals and artists of the 60s and the 70s, with Cuba as the bright, shining, revolutionary hope of hope of the Americas. And now he self-describes himself as Homer Simpson.
Yes. Watching TV.
And watching TV. Now, what I find interesting about that is, one, we have this duplication pattern from one generation to another. The hopes were different, but the shattering was the equivalent.
Yes.
And the second thing, from the referencing of Cuba as an object of hope some 30 or 40 years ago, to, you know, this simple notion that, hey, American television is everywhere, and as you and I were talking off camera, Los Simpsons is an extreme, is
international.
It's absolutely internationally a hit. So he can reference American pop culture to describe himself as a fat man sitting drinking beer in front of a television.
Isn't that an interesting, comparison, a metaphor of how he feels, because I think Homer Simpson is a character in himself.
Right, absolutely.
And he knows enough. I mean, Argentinians know a lot about what goes on in the world.
Well, you see, that's also very interesting in the film, because while there's this contradiction in the film between how much they're of this place and how much they know of other places. For example, think about the contest between the two drunk men, most of the men in the film, about the musicians.
Well, the musicians, there's a long tradition of jazz, in Argentina, and that was one of the ways. Perón didn't want people, we didn't want anything from the United States, but all my friends, they used to come from the boats. They used to go to the ports and bring, jazz. So Argentina and jazz, you would say that they are very well, they know a lot and they love jazz. That's why I came to the United States, for jazz.
And look what happened to you.
Where did you come? I just came to Berlin, to listen to jazz. That was my best, thing. I mean, I listened to all the people that they were mentioning, Dizzy Gillespie and all that. I mean, that was, my goal. My hope was to be in jazz, with jazz. So anyhow, so they know a lot, and they know about wines, and they know. I mean, it's interesting, that couple, that the contest, you have different sets of, characters in the film. They all more or less, get together. Some people are bored, the women, there's a group of women, and Pablo himself. What do you think of him? Pablo, the character. Is he there, or is he like the Yarmish, Bill Murray in Broken Flowers? Is he there, or is he trying to recuperate the past, in this, moment? I mean, this is a limiting situation where he will have, all kinds of people from all walks of life over there.
Right.
But he's there and he's not there.
Well, exactly.
And he's looking for something else. I mean, he knows Paula is there, and his ex-wife says, maybe, you have a lover, with this woman. But is that really so, or is Paula using the birthday party really to become, herself, a film director?
I think it's part of the aesthetic of this film to leave a number of those questions absolutely open.
Yes.
I really believe that. Now let's sort of enter the film through a different door, and let's try the door of language, because what is it to a non-Spanish speaker? What is it about their language that strikes you? Because I think this is that's part of who they are. It's the way they speak. I mean, in the way in which we think of a Martin Scorsese.
Thank God for English subtitles. Thank you for sending, because some of the language escapes me. I cannot understand. They talk very fast. Argentinians talk very fast, and these people are from Rosario, so sometimes it escapes me. And also you know, their vocabulary. I mean, what they use is incredible. Like the words that they use.
Right.
Every 2 words, you know, there is some bad word.
Well, that's one of the things I'm a little sense going after, because you know, there are regional dialects, and then there's also what, you know, the extreme of that is a so-called idiolect, not because people are idiots, but because the group of people who can understand something is so small. So one of the things you get in this film is because it's a highly language-driven film, we're not seeing so much action, we're hearing about it, is that we're getting this in a language that's all these yearnings for the cosmopolitan life or the broader world that is
and the
spoken.
Poetry there, yeah, but there is a lot of poetry at the same time. You see, you have this language that is, you know, that you don't want the children to repeat, you know, this language, but at the same time there are some characters that are poets. And Gabriela says of her husband, he wanted to be a poet, you know, and she wants to do theater.
Well, there's a debate about poetry. He says, "Oh, now you're a poet."
Now you're a poet, yes. Yeah. And sometimes they describe the landscape, and it's very poetic. But those are flashes. In general, the people communicate talking, you know, in a language that I don't understand. I'm not part of that culture anymore. Right. You know, I have problems when I go to Buenos Aires because of the way people talk, and I find it aggressive also.
Okay.
The language.
Okay, so it's
you know, it's like
well, everybody has to
provoking.
Protect, provoking. No. There's a certain aggressivity and everything because
and I'm far for that. You know, from that. I mean, and my friends here are Cuban and Colombian, and you know, they are relaxed when they talk. You know? But these people are aggressive and you know, the 4-letter words. I mean, just constantly. I took some of my students to see a film, you know, was 9 Queens, and they said, everybody talks like that in I said, no. So maybe that's part of the frustration, you know, that really.
Well, that's what I'm thinking as well. That there's you know, that kind of instant aggressiveness or aggressivity, you know, is a kind of defensiveness. I mean, you know, I'm vulnerable, but I can never show that, so I have to cover up for it. And we're talking about characters here who we've seen have been made personally and emotionally vulnerable by relationships. But those are also one of the things that's so interesting about the monologue moments is that they give us this rich backstory. I mean,
but the story they give you has no image. They don't have any images.
Well, they speak the story, and there's
and
the
then you
film
have to
gives
imagine.
No. Well, this is truly a talking picture.
Absolutely. You know, I was compare this picture with Almodóvar's, the last one, the La Mala Educación, the Bad Education, because it is also, you know, the tape within the tape. I mean, the author, you know, telling the story of when he was young, and it's very similar. The frames, he uses several frames. Here, they use several frames. 2 frames sometimes, you know, they open when the director is filming, and also the girl, Paula, is filming with a video, so you see a small frame. Almodóvar uses the same thing in his picture, but when Almodóvar lets the characters tell the story, he goes to places. You know, he presents the images and he explains to you. You know, this film, El Cumple, looks like a set. Well, and Almodóvar incorporates the set into his film, but here, this is, you know, El Cumple could be, you know, it's a place. It could be
a rehearsal hall. I mean, it's just a big space.
Like a set, like we are here. You know?
Absolutely. Well, the other thing is that here, the question of who exactly is narrating this film, it's supposed to be, it begins in a kind of stable way. We think, oh, okay, I know what this...
Yeah, it starts, you know, with Marcelo. He says, I am Marcelo, and I am going to tell you, you know, the story. I organized the party for Pablo. You know, he's going to be 38 today. You know, the film starts before, you know, when they were young, and this is, you know, later, after 2001. And so then you say, oh, here, you know, first person narrator. You know, we'll understand. And then immediately, you know, it goes into something else. So you have the voices, the narrative voices disappear. So there is a director, Gustavo Pastiglioni, who's a young director. He was born in '68. And this is, I don't know if I mentioned, this is part of a trilogy.
No, you've not mentioned that yet.
this film is part of a trilogy. The first one is called El Asadito, the barbecue, where few characters get together for a barbecue. And then you have El Cumple, and the one that is coming now, it's called La Peli. I didn't see, but it means the film. Right. So he's involved, with this. He wants to gather people together and see, what he can.
Right, and what chemistry is going to come out of that, and what stories are going to come out of their mouths.
Yeah.
What the pressure of social encounter sort of forces out of these containers, because it's like these people are containers of experience and fueled by, bluntly, by some personal confrontations, by the fact that you're at a group where people are sort of bumping into one another, and needless to say, fueled by a lot of alcohol.
And dope, I was surprised. There's a lot of dope.
Right, absolutely. Well, but that's also all
and also, there are scenes in the bathrooms, that are famous. There are queer scenes in the bathroom that you have in Plata Quemada, also Burnt Money, and Almodóvar, would use things like that. He wants to gather people together because he's really searching for characters. You would say that he's a director in search of characters and narratives.
Okay, we're going to have to, that's a good way to summarize what's going on in this film, because we've got to come to an end now, our 30 minutes. Oh, okay.
No, I was having such a good time.
Well, so was I. If you'd like more information about this series, about City Cinematheque, or more generally about CUNY TV, it should come as no surprise that the way to get it is to visit our website. Please visit www.cuny.tv. Again, that website is www.cuny.tv. It'll also come as no surprise that you'll find email there if you wish to contact us, and we always like hearing from the viewers of CUNY TV. Flora, always a pleasure to have you here and chat about all these kinds of things.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk about La Peli when it comes out.
Okay, it's a promise. That's a really great idea.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and thank you for joining.
Pleasure.
And thank you at home for joining us today. I hope you join us again as we stroll through the archives of film history. Bye-bye for now.